Welcome back to our AI in Action Building with Copilot Studio series. If you've built topics in Copilot Studio, you're probably familiar with the phrases trigger. This trigger activates where one or more of the trigger phrases match closely with an incoming message from the user. But did you know that there are other trigger types available that can determine when a topic is executed? Let's take a look at some of them in this video. Triggers allow you to intercept and handle activities of different types. As I said, phrases are probably the most common. Take a look at this pizza ordering topic where I have a bunch of related trigger phrases. Triggering it is as simple as typing something like, "May I please order a pizza?" and then the next node in the topic will be activated. For this trigger, it's important to know that your message does not need to match exactly with a trigger phrase. Copilot Studio is smart enough to figure it out. Now let's go back to topics. Select Add a Topic and then from blank to create an empty topic. Because now we will be covering the activity received trigger. To change the default phrases trigger, we'll hover over phrases and then select the Change Trigger icon. Here, we should see a list of triggers to choose from. Let's then select the activity received trigger. This trigger starts the topic every time the Copilot receives an activity of any type. To see what type of activities they are, you can select Edit, and under Activity Type, expand the drop-down to reveal the full list. There are a number of activities that you can act on, like the typing activity that represents ongoing text inputs from the user or the Copilot. This activity is often sent when keystrokes are being entered by a user, but most commonly used by Copilots to indicate that they're thinking. There is the end of conversation activity that signals the end of a conversation from the recipient's perspective. This may be because the conversation has been completely ended or because the recipient has been removed from the conversation in a way that is indistinguishable from it ending. Or you have the message reaction activity. This activity is triggered when a user reacts to a message sent by the Copilot, such as liking or reacting with an emoji. Let's go ahead and select this type. With activities, you're also able to specify conditions that must be met in order for the trigger to fire. In this case, we can select the variable, go to System, search for channel, and then select activity.channel. Make sure is equal to is selected. Then we can select the Microsoft Teams channel. Since Microsoft Teams is one of the channels that supports message reactions, this condition ensures that this trigger will only fire when a user reacts to a message in Teams chat. After that, we're able to set a priority. Priority determines the order the trigger fires when more than one trigger of the same activity type is met. This ensures that the most critical interactions are handled first. Lower numbers have higher priority, so 1 and 2 will execute before triggers with 7 or 8, for example. For now, it doesn't matter since we only have one trigger of this activity type. With that set up, we can exit the Properties pane, add a new node, and select Send a Message. Here, I'll add "Thanks for your reaction. Let me know if there's anything more I can help with." Once done, I'll rename the topic and select Save. And if we hop into Teams where I've published the Copilot, we can ask it any question. And then once we react to the answer, the message reaction activity is sent, and then we get a message back which acknowledges our reaction and encourages additional questions, which improves the overall interactivity of the Copilot. For the next activity type, let's change the trigger and look at message received. As its name suggests, this trigger will start the topic every time a message is received from the user. In this case, if I add a node and select Send a Message, I can then type, "Your message has been received." Let's save the topic and do a quick test. I'll type hi, and you'll note that the received message is sent before another trigger activates. I'll then ask a question, and again, our received message appears once again. So we can see that this indeed runs every time a message is sent. Now, obviously, you don't want this every time, but what you can do is monitor every message that comes in and only act upon a certain condition. So let's delete this message node. And for a new use case, I'll add a node, select call an action, and then I'll look for my detect sentiment AI prompt. This prompt determines if a message is of positive, neutral, or negative sentiment. The only input it needs is the message itself. So I can go ahead and get that message by selecting system and looking for last message.text. This will then send the last message received by the user into the AI prompt. Once sentiment analysis has been completed, then a prediction output record is created, which I need to store in a variable. So let's create one, and I'll call it prompt answer. The next step would be to add a new node and then a condition. In this condition, we only need to evaluate the negative outcome. So for our variable, we'll select prompt answer.text, which gets the text sentiment from the AI prompt. We'll leave the condition as is, and then for value, we can simply enter negative. Once done, let's add another node of type message and paste, "We are so sorry to hear about that." And then finally, let's redirect to the escalate topic. Let's save this topic and then see it in action. I'll type a positive message, and you'll see that the Copilot's responded as normal. But if I type a negative message, my sentiment analysis prompt picks it up and then immediately redirects the user to the escalate topic that connects them to a live agent so they can get urgent assistance with their issue. This is just one example of using the message receive trigger to monitor how the user is feeling during the interaction, tailoring their user experience in real time. The last trigger I would like to show you is the inactivity trigger. If we change trigger and search for inactivity, we can then select it. This will trigger when a user has interacted with the Copilot over a certain time period. And we can configure that time period by clicking on Edit and selecting a value under the inactivity duration. Further customization is possible by switching from manual input to formula and removing the current value and placing your own. I'll put 300, which means 300 seconds, which then translates to 5 minutes. Then I'll add a node, send a message, and type, "I haven't heard from you in a while. Do you still need assistance?" This message will only appear if the user hasn't interacted in 5 minutes. So let's click Save. Then we'll switch on over to Teams. We'll then send a message and then wait 5 minutes. With the power of movie magic, it is now 5 minutes later, as you can see in the chat, and the inactivity message has now been triggered and sent to the user. This is a great way for ensuring users stay engaged and informed, even during periods of inactivity. That is just some of the available triggers we have inside of Copilot Studio. There's a bunch of resources in the description below for you to find out how to use some of the others as well. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the Microsoft Power Platform YouTube channel to receive a notification of the next episode of our AI in Action Building with Copilot Studio series.